Hello and welcome to Sophie & Co. I'm Sophie Shevardnadze. Big banks have been blamed for causing the global crisis in 2008. Still, they were bailed out by governments and kept afloat to save world economies from falling into ruins. But even now, what do we know about their activities? Well, we will definitely learn more after we talk to our guest today.
In the reality of the big bank economy, how clean are the money currents? Operating with trillions, do bankers remember to obey the law? Everett Stern looked money laundering in the face, blowing the whistle on HSBC, forcing it to pay billions in fines, hoping the big banks notice and comply. But have they? Or are they just more careful in the shadows? Can they be brought to account? Are they too big to jail?
So our guest today is whistleblower Everett Stern, former employee of one of world's banking giants, HSBC. Everett, it's really great to have you on our show today. Now, you've been very vocal about your experience with HSBC. Can you tell our viewers in a nutshell, in your simple words, what it's all about?
Sure. I mean, this isn't a normal banking scandal. I mean, this is about a bank sponsoring terrorism and killing people. That's what this is about. And it's about defending the United States and defending the world as a whole against terrorism. And saying that too big to jail is not an okay policy for any government to have.
All right, but these are actually huge words. What did actually happen? You were hired by HSBC.
Sure, I mean,
let's start from the beginning. So you were hired by HSBC after you went to business school, right? And then what happened? Correct.
Sure. Well, first I was a candidate for the clandestine service, and then while I was in business school and in my undergrad, and then joined HSBC October of 2010, right after the cease and desist order came into effect. And I was hired as an anti-money laundering compliance officer and put in charge as a specialist on Middle Eastern transactions. Also, I was part of the anti-terrorist financing team there. But really, while I was there, I mean, I saw the blatant criminal actions that were occurring, and just how HSBC defrauded the United States government.
Mm-hmm. So I just would like to get to the point when you started detecting suspicious activities. So I gather from your earlier interviews, you've said that it was basically a team of former debt collectors rehired to become an anti-money laundering unit. None of them was experienced in that unit, including yourself. That's right. So then how were you able to detect all of those suspicious activities if you weren't really sure of what you were doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what happened was when I joined, there were maybe 15 compliance officers in the entire department in Newcastle, Delaware. And I knew immediately that I really had no idea what I was doing. So I went to the University of Delaware Library. I checked out a whole bunch of books, and I would spend mornings and nights reading and teaching myself about money laundering and terrorist financing. And then what happened was maybe about 3 weeks in, that's when I saw the first suspicious activity with a company called Crossbar FX. I started, that was my first email to the CIA. It was on November 12th of 2010. So it was 3 weeks after I started that I started passing information to the CIA. I felt there was a national security risk. And first, of course, I went to management of HSBC, which went nowhere. But what ended up subsequently happening was that HSBC had a huge credit card division in the same building, and they needed to show the government that they improved the program by hiring all these anti-money laundering compliance officers. So they fired all their debt collectors. They sold off the credit card division to Capital One, and then rehired the debt collectors as anti-money laundering compliance officers. I mean, they're still there now approving transactions. It's absolutely disgusting.
Right.
They have no idea what they're doing.
But technically, how did you detect it technically? How does it happen? How do you detect a suspicious transaction that could be linked to terrorism or drug cartels?
it's blatant. It was so obvious. You know, it's because I have 2 brain cells in my brain, and through simple Google internet searches. I mean, this was not rocket science. You know, we're talking, you know, for instance, OFAC has a list of companies that the United States cannot do business with, or it's the OFAC sanction list. And so, for instance, Kariba Supermarkets, Tajiko, the Tajain brothers, which were all linked to Hezbollah. Kariba Supermarkets is a supermarket chain based out of Gambia, and they're owned by Tajiko, which is owned by the Tajain brothers, which are based out of Beirut, that are financiers of Hezbollah. So those transactions were going through HSBC, and I saw it. Now, what's interesting is that it's not that it was hard to find the transactions. It was very easy. What the real disturbing part was how they were doing it, because those transactions that were supposed to be stopped in the wire filter were actually going through. And how they were going through because what HSBC employees were doing was adding dots and dashes and different numeric codings to the actual payments. The FBI later called it stripping the payments. So the computer system, there wasn't a match with the transactions, and the transactions would go through. So it wasn't. It was just blatantly obvious what they were doing. It just took me, I guess, with a little extra effort to see how they were criminally allowing the terrorist funds to go through.
So you said that it was very simple to actually detect what was going on. Were the only one who was suspicious, or the others were just pretending not to see this?
Yeah, they were either pretending not to see them, or they were, I mean, to be frank, too stupid. I mean, the debt collectors that they hired weren't exactly the brightest bulbs in the sky. So, they were just clearing transactions all day long. I mean, that was the culture at HSBC, was to clear as many alerts or investigations as possible. They gave us a minimum of 72 a week to clear, and it was a culture, that was extremely perverted. That was geared towards defrauding the American people. Mm-hmm. And also what they did was they hired the former one of the former heads of counterintelligence for the FBI to run the department, so he knew exactly how to manipulate the system. But again, it wasn't rocket science for me to figure this out. I'm not a financial genius. I did teach myself, and I did teach myself as to how to analyze transactions and how to identify terrorist financing. But the stuff HSBC was doing was not very covert.
But when you went to your seniors, when you went to your bosses and you said, hey guys, I'm kind of clearing all these dubious transactions that could be linked to terrorists and drug cartels, what did they say? No, Everett, you're hallucinating, you're not doing any of that? Or did they say, we know, but you have to kind of shut up about it? What was their reaction?
Well, there's an internal email that the FBI has and the CIA has, and so does the United States Congress. When I met with them about a month ago, called compliance error, and I'm more than happy to send an email to you. I still have it. And this compliance error email is an email from me to management explaining how these debt collectors are approving funds that are going into Gaza and they're going to Hamas. What I was told was that Hamas is not a terrorist organization. Now, there are some people out there who believe that Hamas is not a terrorist organization, but according to myself and also to the United States government, OFAC, and most democratic countries in the world, they are a terrorist organization. So, there was really no. They knew exactly what was going on, and they. They did not want anything. For instance, we could not put the word suspicious in any alert or investigation that we did. In any write-up, the word suspicious could not be put in, because that could alert a regulator, and they didn't want that.
So what you're talking about with the transactions linked to Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, what kind of money are we talking about? What kind of transactions were they, and where was the cash coming from?
Yeah, overall, we're talking about billions of dollars, but For instance, a great example is the Kariba supermarket example. I mean, so you had these supermarkets that are operating out of Africa. They were, selling regular, groceries, and people were going to buy. And then Kariba supermarkets would take that money, send it to back to Tajiko in Beirut, which was owned by the Tajani brothers, and then they would send it off to Iran. And this is still going on. Kariba Supermarkets was named in the Reuters article that I did. They were named to the FBI, and Kariba Supermarkets is literally still operating and sending money to Hezbollah at this exact time.
Mm-hmm. But if we abstragate from the HSBC case, who is ultimately in charge of preventing money laundering in the United States? Are they doing their job, or does it have to be individuals like you who actually step up?
No, I mean, the Department of Justice is not doing their job. I mean, Eric Holder specifically said during the Senate hearings that prosecuting these banks criminally could cause a financial crisis. And, what my argument is to Eric Holder is that if we allow this terrorist financing to continue, and the next 9/11 gets financed, I guarantee you the next 9/11 will cause the next financial crisis. So, what's happening now is that these bankers and management of large banks, such as J.P. Morgan, HSBC, they're not being held criminally accountable. So they can just do whatever they want. They're just being fined. I mean, HSBC was fined $1.9 billion, which seems like a lot of money. But that's actually only 5 weeks' profit for them, and their stock actually went up when that announcement came out. Mm-hmm. So, it's really disgusting that the Department of Justice is not doing their job. And I mean, if I were to donate $1 to Hamas or Hezbollah, I would go to jail for life. But yet they're donating billions, and that's okay.
We're going to pick up from there after a short break, Everett, actually. We're going to pick up from there. We'll be back, folks, with HSBC whistleblower Everett Stern to talk about the impunity world's biggest banks seem to enjoy even after the financial crisis. Stay with us. And we're back with HSBC whistleblower Everett Stern. Great to have you back, Everett. So back to the $1.9 billion fine that HSBC was fined. I mean, it does sound like a lot of money, but is it really a lot of money for HSBC? I mean, it seems like they will be making that sum in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's 5 weeks of profit. And again, their stock went up. They actually, I think, made that money back with their stock price increasing. I mean, there's zero consequence for them doing what they did. And, that's a problem because the whole point of the American justice system is equality under the law. And what the Department of Justice has made very clear is that this is not is that bankers are held to a different standard than the public, which doesn't make any sense. And I think that the government needs to stop being afraid of a financial crisis happening from criminal prosecutions. I think the real threat is terrorists being financed and drug cartels. I mean, we have 500,000 Americans dying a year from drugs, and our banks are financing drug cartels. And yet the United States government's launching a drug war where DEA agents are getting killed left and right, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, the whole system just doesn't make sense.
So you're saying that nothing really has changed in HSBC even after it was fined $1.9 billion, right?
No, nothing. And that's why, my attorneys, I'm not suing HSBC. There's no litigation. What I have done is I'm asking for a new money laundering probe to be issued and people to go to jail. Because the thing is that the $1.9 billion covered up until transactions up until 2010. I started passing information to the CIA and then went to the FBI post-2010. So HSBC was never held accountable for those transactions or the Kariba supermarkets, the Hezbollah that I just talked to you about. They were not held responsible for that. So they need to prosecute them. I mean, if you murder somebody, you know, there's. I mean, if you get caught and you get caught 5 years later, you're going to go to jail for that. The bank should be held responsible.
All right.
I mean, I think. I'm sorry.
So you're saying that no one was held responsible or criminally charged. The FBI and CIA didn't really follow up this case that you presented to them. Governments are afraid to criminally prosecute banks like HSBC because of reasons linked to economic crisis. So could it be that they're complicit?
Yeah, I mean, you know, believe me, I'm banging my head against the wall with this one. I mean, I have risked everything and tried my hardest to get these people in jail. And I mean, right now, the former managers that were my bosses, who were subsequently fired from HSBC, are now the heads. One of them is a head of compliance for TD Bank. The other one is a head for a Chinese bank. I mean, there's no consequence here. These people are still doing the same thing at multiple organizations, and that's not what America's about, and that's not what justice is about. And you know, I think what's important here is that what the American public hasn't really understood is that this is not a normal banking scandal, and that these banks, like HSBC, have the blood of American soldiers on their hands. That IED going off in Afghanistan, killing an American or you know, allied soldier, that is being financed through our banks. That's a problem. That's a huge problem.
So I want to talk a little bit globally about what's going on, okay? If we look at the banks that are actually getting away with criminal activities like this because governments are afraid that the economy could worsen if the banks are charged, does this mean that the banks could actually do whatever they want?
Yeah, and they are doing whatever they want. I mean, that's the problem right now. They are doing whatever they want to do because they know they'll walk, and that has to be stopped. And I'll tell you something. I don't believe it's going to cause a financial crisis if the bank is prosecuted. I believe that it will create more trust in the financial markets because this way the justice will prevail. I mean, you know, right now, letting there just be a free-for-all is not the way to go about it. And again, you know, financial crises are also caused by terrorist attacks, political instability, you know, money going into governments that shouldn't be going to, and these banks are financing it. I mean, if I can give you another example, there was millions of dollars moving from a company in Saudi Arabia called Sharbati Fruit. It's a fruit company, and they were sending money to one of the leading members of the Muslim Brotherhood in Yemen. So this is what HSBC is allowing and facilitating to happen here, and that causes political instability in the region. That causes, I mean, it's treason and it's financing our enemies. And what's crazy about it is that HSBC admitted to the Department of Justice and to the world, they admitted to treason, financing the enemy. I mean, if you plead guilty to financing the enemy, I don't think you should just walk with a fine. That's not finable. That's jail time.
But Everett, can I play devil's advocate for a second here? I mean, you don't really know that if banks are charged, that wouldn't cause the economic crisis. No one knows that. So if there is this obvious connection link between the major banks and economic prosperity, you personally, would you risk the global economy for the sake of bringing banks to justice?
Yes. Without hesitation. And I say that because, yes, I don't know for sure that prosecuting a bank would not cause a financial crisis because it's never happened before. But, well, I'm sorry, they have been prosecuted before. There's no one's gone to jail for it. They've just been fined. But if someone actually, if management actually went to jail and a financial crisis was caused, I think you have to look at this from a mitigating risk standpoint, in that if we allow this to continue, there's going to be another terrorist attack, either in the United States, overseas. So innocent people are going to die. So the way I look at it is, yeah, I'm willing to risk another financial crisis. Bring it on. I'm more than happy to, because the way we're going right now, if these if criminals, Russian mobsters, Hamas, Hezbollah, if they keep getting financed, the good guys, we're finished.
Mm-hmm. So HSBC is just
because I'll tell you something. There's.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that what I was going to say is that there's no that if we allow this to continue, there's not going to be a financial economy to worry about. That's what I'm saying. So we have to do something.
So it seems like a country that's fighting a war or terror is also financing it at the same time.
Yes.
Even though HSBC isn't really an American bank, but it is one of the largest banks that is operating on American soil. But HSBC is just one big bank that you specifically caught red-handed. Now, the problem of money laundering is much wider. And I know that you've written up a list of banks you believe are harming America. Tell our viewers which banks are these and what do they make to make the list?
Sure. I mean, J.P. Morgan, I mean, they've been fined like crazy, even the last couple of weeks. Standard Chartered Bank that's operating here. Bank of America. I mean, they have, they've had numerous accounts with drug cartels. I mean, all of the big banks are involved in this in some way. Now, the argument can be raised. Well, then, to play my own devil's advocate, the argument can be raised that how can these banks always prevent terrorist financing? And the thing is that there's no 110% system that can always prevent it. But what's happening now is a culture that's being cultivated and facilitated geared towards profiting off of financing terrorism and drug cartels so they can make more money so their stock will go up. That's the problem. So it's not a few isolated incidents. It's a whole culture of this.
I've read that this whole case with HSBC left you emotionally drained, financially devastated. How are you now? How are you doing?
No, I'm doing great. I mean, I started my own company, Tactical Rabbit, which is an intelligence company. Right after I left HSBC, we became profitable five months ago, but it was extremely hard. I mean, I was working at P.F. Chang's restaurant as a waiter after I left HSBC because, I mean, I had no money, I had nothing left. I literally walked into P.F. Chang's with the Rolling Stone article when I was featured in Rolling Stone. And I said to them, look, I'm a whistleblower. I can't get work. I need a job. And I've never waited tables before, but I'll do a good job for you guys. And they hired me. And they said, look, we'll give you a chance. And I took all of that P.F. Chang's money and I put it into Tactical Rabbit. And that's how I launched this very, very successful company now. I mean, now we're projected to be, we're going to be a multi-million-dollar company.
Wow. So you're a great example of someone who can actually stand up, whistleblow, and still be very successful. There are a lot of people who are actually weighing pros and cons and saying, no, I'm not doing this because then my life is over. But you're a great example of how you can whistleblow on dubious activities and still make it in life. But can I ask you something? Except that Rolling Stone piece that I've read, has other media showed any interest in you and in your story?
No, it's a great, it's amazing. The answer to that is no. Well, yes and no. I did a 45-minute interview with Brian Ross at ABC Studios, and I think you used to work for ABC. Brian had a 45-minute interview with me that he said he was going to air in 2 weeks, and he never aired it. And other networks wouldn't tape me because they were nervous because Brian Ross had the tape. And Brian Ross said his hands were tied. And I made it very clear to Mr. Ross that this was a national security issue and that this story has to get out. And he just said it was not news. I have a problem with that. And I think the American people have a problem with that. And I still think that Brian Ross should air that tape.
Mm-hmm. But would you say, I mean, fighting big banks at Frost is like your life goal right now, but would you say you have a strong team of supporters around you? And do you see any change coming as a result of your work and efforts, more importantly?
Not from the media. And from the public, I'm not getting it there either, to be honest with you. And the reason is because I need the media. That's why, I was so happy that you invited me on the show, because I need the media to be able to carry the message and let the public know what's going on. It appears to me that the American mainstream media, for some reason here, does not want to tell this story and to really show the American people what is going on. I mean, CNN, MSNBC, why are they not showing that you have a bank in Newcastle, Delaware, HSBC, that has a anti-money laundering facility in Newcastle, Delaware, that's hiring and firing, debt collectors to work. I mean, that's a huge story. Why is that not on the front page of the New York Times? That's a problem.
And just really quickly, first of all, we're always glad to have you on our show. But just really quickly, within your community, within your friends, your family, just people who know what you did and people who read the Rolling Stone piece, do you feel like a hero? Does it feel like you're a hero? Or are you more of a loose cannon?
I think I'm more of a loose cannon. I don't think I'm a hero. I think right now I'm a loose cannon turning into the guy on the corner, yelling about, crazy stuff about, hey, you gotta, well, here's what's going on with the banks. And it's a problem that I'm analyzing right now because I don't know what else to do. I'm trying to strategize because I don't want to come off as a loose cannon, but at the same time, I keep knocking on doors to get people to pay attention to an issue, but the media won't help me. So it's a very frustrating experience, and yeah, I hope I don't come off as a nut, but unfortunately, sometimes in order to get things done, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
Hey, to us, you are like a hero, and you have a multi-million-dollar company coming along. So we wish you all the best and good luck with all your future endeavors. Thanks for being with us today. That's all for today, folks. We've been talking with whistleblower Everett Stern, former employee of one of the world's biggest banks, HSBC. See you next time here on Sofico. Thanks for watching.